complex graphics editing programs nowadays use layers or some variation thereof. Layers work pretty much just like they sound. They're like transparent pieces of paper laid on top of each other. The objects on the upper layer can obscure those on the lower layers. Do you need to use layers? Of course not. You can create a perfectly acceptable image with all of the text, objects, images, and background colors on a single layer. But if you have a lot of them, it can quickly become chaotic and frustrating to select or edit individual objects. Layers allow you to isolate objects. You can then lock individual layers so that the objects on them cannot be altered. You can also hide them from view so that you can work with objects on other layers unhindered. Just like a stack of pages, layers have a hierarchy. The topmost layer is at the top of the stack. The bottom layer is on the bottom. You can move a layer in the stack simply by clicking on it, then dragging it up or down. You can find the Layers panel on the right side of the screen in the Panels bar. In the default Essentials workspace, Layers is located at the bottom of the bar. If the Panels bar has been collapsed into icons, the Layers panel looks like this. By default, it's grouped with the Artboards panel. You should know at this point that to expand an icon so that you can see its panel, you can just click on it. For the examples in this lesson, we're using one of the free templates that come complimentary with each copy of Illustrator. If you'd like to follow along in Illustrator, you can launch this template by going to File, New from Template. Then from the Tech folder, select Brochures. This template contains 3 separate artboards. Now let's look at the Layers panel. This document consists of 4 basic layers. They're labeled Die Line, Text, Artwork, and Printer Marks. As you can see, the creators of this template labeled each of the layers according to what kind of content was on them. For example, all of the text in the document would be on the text layer, all of the artwork would be on the art layer, and so on. Illustrator CS6 does not name the layers automatically according to the content on them. Instead, Illustrator simply names them according to the order they were created. For instance, the first created layer would be called Layer 1, the second layer, Layer 2, and so on. Now you don't have to rename them if you don't want to, but doing so can help you stay organized and prevent unwanted alterations to items. To rename a layer, simply double-click on the layer title and type the new name. On the far left, you'll see a column of icons in the shape of human eyes. This is called the visibility column. This icon means that the layer and all of the objects on it are visible. If you want to hide a layer, you'd click the icon to remove it. Let's look at what happens when we do this. If we click the eye on the text layer, all of the text is hidden. Note the empty square where the eye icon is usually located in the text layer. To view the layer again, simply click that empty square. It should be noted that hiding a layer is not the same as deleting it. The objects are still preserved within the document. We'll show you how to delete a layer and all of the items on it later on in this lesson. Now let's take a look at the column to the right of the eye icon. In the example provided and by default, the boxes in this column are empty. What this box does is allows you to lock a layer to prevent it or any of the objects on it from being altered in any way. That's why this is called the Edit column. It prevents you from editing the associated layer. To lock a layer, simply click on this box. As soon as you do so, an icon that looks like a padlock will appear. To the right of the lock column, you'll see a narrow column of color. These colors are automatically assigned to each layer to help identify upon which layer a selected object is located. We've selected the text, Lorem ipsum dolor sit amet. We can tell that the object has been selected because of the colored border with square handles around it. With the Layers panel open, we can also easily determine which layer the object is on by its color and by the colored box on the far right of the text layer. The white arrows to the right of the color column indicate that there is a list of objects and sublayers associated with that layer. This feature is active by default. We'll tell you how to toggle it in a minute. For now, let's take a look at what it does. This will expand the list so you can see all of the objects and sublayers contained on that layer. We've decided to see what objects are contained on the artwork layer. The white arrow is now pointing down, instead of at the layer name. This lets you know that the list has been expanded. Here you can select each object by clicking its target icon. When you do so, the object will be outlined in the document. You can see we've made a selection because it's outlined in red. Note the image box outlined in red with white handles. We can also see a large red square in the Layers panel. This tells us which object has been selected. You might also note that a smaller square has appeared in the Artwork layer row, indicating that it's the main layer that the selected item is on. To the right of the layer names is a column of circles. This is called the target column. To select all of the objects on a layer from the Layers panel, simply click this circle. We've targeted the text layer. A double circle in this column tells you which layer or item has been selected. You can also target individual objects and sublayers. Just expand the main layer and then select the object. The Layers panel options can be accessed by the Panel Options icon in the upper right-hand corner of the Layers panel. Simply click on it to see a list of options. At the bottom, you'll see Panel Options. Let's click on it. The Show Layers Only box allows you to see only the main layers. It hides sublayers and other objects contained on the layer. When this option is activated, you won't be able to expand a layer and select objects on it from the Layers panel. Use the Row Size section to increase the size of the layer panel icons. The Thumbnails section allows you to choose which thumbnails you'd like to see. Uncheck the boxes to hide the associated thumbnails. There are several ways to create new layers and even sublayers. The easiest, perhaps, is to use the Create New Layer button on the Layers panel. It creates a blank layer below the currently selected layer and automatically assigns a name and a color. Another way you can create a layer is to click the Panel Options button in the upper right-hand corner of the Layers panel. From the menu, select New Layer. This will create a new layer, but also launch the Layer Options dialog box. With this box, you can enter a name for the layer, as well as an associated color. You can also choose whether you want this layer to be included when printing, whether to lock it to prevent any changes, and more. To create the layer, click OK. To create a sublayer, select a layer, then click the Create New Sublayer button at the bottom of the Layers panel. Using this button will create a sublayer and automatically assign a name to it. You can also select the layer and click the Layers panel option button, then New Sublayer in the drop-down menu. Doing so will launch the Layer Options dialog, allowing you to enter a name for it, and a color. Just as there were several ways to create a layer, there are several ways to delete them. The first step is to select a layer. You do not need to target the layer by clicking the circle associated with it. Simply click on the layer name to highlight it. Layer 5 has been selected, but not targeted. To delete the second layer, click the garbage pail icon at the bottom of the Layers panel. If the layer contains objects, a dialog will open to ask you to verify the deletion. But don't worry, even if you click Yes and delete the layer, you can still use the Undo feature to recover it. Another way to delete the layer is to select it, then click the Layer Options button. From there, we'll select Delete Layer 5 from the drop-down menu. To duplicate a layer and all of the objects on it, select the layer. Click the Layers Panel Options button and choose Duplicate Layer Name. Arranging layers and objects is as easy as clicking on a layer or an object and dragging it up or down in the list. Note: make sure to let go when you see the solid white line between the layers and not when the layer is grayed out. If you do, it will be added as a sublayer. Merging layers involves selecting all of the layers you want to merge and then using the Merge function. To select multiple layers, you may have to use either the Shift key or the Control key when clicking on them. Select a layer, then hold down the Shift key and click on the second layer. This allows us to select more than one layer. To merge them, click the Layers Panel Options button and then select Merge Selected. The layers and all of their objects will be combined into one. Find and select the object you want to move, then click on it and hold the mouse button down. Now drag the object to the layer and the Layers panel you want to move it to. Now release the mouse button.